Hello and welcome back to my channel, Our Year to Shine. And we are going to do another section of Madly in Love with Me by Christine Arylo tonight. That's our discussion for February 2021, if you're tuning in live. I hope your month is going well. I hope you are working on your self-love tree. Shoot, I didn't grab it again to show you. I will show you my art piece at some point. Tonight, we're going to talk about self-esteem. Do you remember how Christine said when she was giving that presentation to the moms and the teens that everybody was really proud to say that they had self-esteem, but then the self-love part was like, not going to admit that. So I wonder if you find that too. I feel like I can definitely struggle with self-love and self-esteem in some respects too, because they are definitely intertwined. But I do feel like self-esteem is more about achievements than self-love is at that core level of your soul, or accepting every part of you. I was just listening tonight to a refresher on some of the Power of Now, and there's so much in there about the pain body, and like when you're living in what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body, and you're just resistant to get out of that. And I was thinking, like, in terms of this book, I'm like, again, I said before, like, what are we afraid of? What is this resistance? Like, why is it so hard to accept things? But I mean, that state of peace is, we haven't talked about acceptance yet, but that state of peace is definitely a part of acceptance. So let's talk about self-esteem. A strong belief in and regard for yourself, a strong confidence in your ability to do and be anything. I don't know if I would say that I could be anything, but I do feel like I've accomplished things. I have confidence in my abilities, so that does play into my self-esteem. Again, we have a self-love pulse check. Are you guys doing those with the chapters? There's different questions for each branch, so they're very tailored. Well, we all experience moments of doubt about the wavering confidence in ourselves at one time or another. There's a clear difference between a blooming self-esteem branch and a failing one. That could be said for a lot of the branches, right, too? Now, one thing that's interesting in this section is that Christine poses the point that perhaps you've been overcompensating for your lack of self-love by, and not self-esteem as a prideful, like, over egotistical point, but that you've been really putting more into that branch than the overall encompassing self-love. What do you think about that? Could you see, I mean, I already said one time in another video that you might put yourself, like if you're like a workaholic, because you know maybe you have esteem about your abilities and your job, and so you put yourself into that because it's like, this is where I feel good. But then it's almost like you're doing that as a numbing agent because you can't sit with the fact that there are, like, if it was really quiet and you're not at work and you have to be alone with yourself and look in the mirror and try to do the Cheryl Richardson Extreme Self-Care Challenge this month, then you'd actually realize that there might be some pain and torture and self-hatred inside that you just can't face. So I can see what she's saying about, she's not saying that self-esteem is necessarily negative, but that it can be something that we tend to overcompensate for if we are lacking a bit of self-love. Our relationship with self-esteem is different. Maybe you don't currently, and she's talking about the difference between self-confidence and self-esteem, but maybe you don't currently have strong self-confidence or conviction in your ability to achieve anything you set out to conquer. If you wouldn't say that you possess an almost unshakable belief in and regard for yourself, like your abilities, your ideas, contributions, and value, then you have a self-esteem branch in need of strengthening, even if you don't like admitting it. So maybe on the flip side, maybe your self-esteem branch is struggling and not blooming or anything, not growing. You can breathe easy knowing that in our magical storybook of self-love, there are no scarlet letters, lepers, or shaming finger pointers. No categories for better or worse than. The truth is, a woman with an overgrown self-esteem branch accomplished by a dinky branch of self-compassion is no better off than a woman who lacks self-confidence but can be kind and gentle with herself when she fails. So that's interesting. She's sort of coupling it with the what was the other one? Self-compassion. Like, so if you have tons of confidence and esteem, but then you just trample over everybody to get to your dreams, then that's no better than somebody that might be lacking self-confidence but then is very compassionate to other people and probably affects people more positively from that compassion. I don't know. She hasn't really necessarily weighed that branches. Like she said, it's not like better or worse than. Like, she hasn't said you have to have self-compassion over having self-esteem. Like, it should all be equal, I suppose. Your tree should be symmetrical, I guess. The goal for all of us is to have balanced, healthy branches. Yeah. And self-esteem, not too big or too small, is just right. If we can do this, then self-confidence, self-compassion women value If we can do this, be self-confident and self-compassionate women value self-compassion, self-pleasure, and self-care as much as we do self-esteem, and teach our children to do the same, then together we will gain the power to shift the very basis of our individual and collective systems that determine women's and girls' self-worth. Yeah, if only we could go back. Or if you have a young one that you're trying to foster some positive things in, then hopefully you can help her grow the love. Dare to be special and embrace your gifts. And this reminded me a lot of our Simple Abundance year, I should say, because we talked so much about really digging in and trying to look at our authentic gifts and what do we have that's positive to bring to the world. Now, one thing that's interesting, so I'm sure I've sat down and written, like, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, or whatever, like some gifts that I have, but I've never made statements. Like, she has one of her daring acts of love. It's about the true gifts. So here's an example. Say that your strength is tenacity. So it's like you're putting your strengths on one side of the page, and then you're actually translating that strength into a gift. So the gift is, my gift is never giving up and inspiring people to believe that they don't have to give up either. So I've never actually done an activity like that. I've never actually broken it down and thought, she even has, like, my talent is singing, so I would say I feel confident in my singing. But listen to what the gift is. My gift is feeling the common experiences we have all had as humans and then singing these emotions using words and song. I mean, everybody's could be different, I suppose, for singing, but I've never actually taken a strength and turned it into a statement of a gift. So I'm planning to do that one. So I bet you did a lot of self-reflection if you were with us last year on our Simple Abundance year, because we really dug deep to think about what our gifts are, and that's going to be a part of valuing yourself. Even if it's not a gift in a way that is bringing you an income or anything, but if it's a personal gift, like say you are super kind and compassionate, like that other example, that is such a gift. And think of all the people that you're going to be affecting positively. So maybe that's your gift, that you're just a kind person. It doesn't have to be like you're gonna be a famous artist or write a book or anything like that. I think we get hung up in some of those things. And also not giving up on your gifts, like really working on them. Sarah in Simple Abundance last year encouraged us to do an hour a week on whatever our hobby or our gifts or our projects or whatever that we were working on, to really give it time. Gifts carry such power, Christine says. No matter what the shape and size of the gifts that are expressed through you, whether you're fierce and fiery, passionate, powerful, serene, or sensual, or compassionate and courageous, gifts, when you give them, always influence people in a way that creates more love, happiness, and peace. Yeah, remember we talked about how only good can come out of this? That's another example. So having the courage to believe that your gifts matter is also a part of this self-esteem as well. There's a me moment. Do you really value yourself? There's some questions here. What value do I currently attach to my gifts and to what makes me special? And then she tells us to look at your gifts one at a time and rate them on a scale from 1 to 5. So like if you sat down and did the gifts after you wrote down what your strengths were and you changed it into the gift statement, really, like, what kind of value do you give them? Do you think like, oh, I'm kind, yeah, that's not as important as me being a great accountant or something like that. 5 indicates that you absolutely value the gift and your actions and choices reflect that. 3 indicates that you value the gift, but your actions don't show it. That's true. You might have an inner value for, like, say, I really value my singing, but then am I doing anything with it? Am I sharing it? No. Like, I'm not even doing any singing right now. And 1 indicates you don't value the gift at all. For anything less than a 5, you need to do some reevaluating. This is another question to ask yourself. How am I not currently fully valuing and giving my gifts? How do your choices not align with your valuing and giving of your gifts? A lot of self-reflection here. What is one small but mighty and maybe even daring action I can take in the next 30 days to bring my life into alignment with my gifts and to show that I value the divine gifts that I possess? Ask this question about each of your gifts and then boldly take 1 action. Yeah, this is like self-love boot camp. It really is. Like, you could probably take this book and work on it over an entire year if you were going to really do each of these exercises. I was saying to my therapist that I thought this would be a really good book to actually have your therapist present to you and then do it together, because if you struggle with this self-love in general, then having that guidance and that sounding board would be helpful, I think, too. All right, and so remember we did another me art project where it was one side of the paper, or one sheet of paper, was I am, and then the other sheet or the other half of the paper was I am not. That was about getting to know ourselves. This is I love me list, and we did this in Simple Abundance last year. I think it was actually right around this time too, in February. You could go back and find that video. And Sarah had us do it where we wrote down, what do I love about my personality? And then we had another page that was, what do I love about my appearance? Let's see what Christine has us do. One surefire way to amp up your self-esteem is to reflect back to yourself just how awesome and special you are. Today you're going to reveal 108 things that you love about yourself. Oh my God, do you feel like you could do that? I mean, that would be like, you know how when you work on gratitude and you're trying to do your 100 blessings, 108. That is probably a spiritual number. I think it's interesting she came up with that. So you're going to use a piece of blank paper, fun colored markers and pens, and then optional a printout of I Love Me list. Yeah, if you go to the chooseselflove.com, you can get that. So your mission is to take an inventory of all the things you love about yourself and to list 100 things. Not 10, not 100, but 108. Okay, and she says, why? Because 108 is one of the most powerful numbers in the universe. Yes. Yes, I knew that. There are 108 beads. Oh, and a mala bracelet. I actually didn't really remember that. The prayer beads that you see Buddhist monks wearing. That's the difference. That's the distance between the earth and the sun, 108 times the diameter. Wait, the distance between the earth and the sun is 108 times the diameter of the sun. And there are 108 pressure points on the human body according to many traditions, and the list goes on and on. Yeah, I definitely knew 108 was the spiritual number. I'm a big believer in using extra cosmic energy from the divine whenever possible. Because why? Why not, she says. So yeah, she gives us some encouragement of ways to start the sentences. I love that I am blank. I love that I always blank. I love that I remember blank. I love that I have blank. Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to be like things that you're seeing in the mirror. It could be, I love that I remember people's birthdays, or I love that I remember what somebody tells me, or I love that I always have something to say. I mean, so I guess maybe I was overthinking it. I could maybe come up with 108. I think I'd have to take it over some time, though, to come up with all the things. Thinking up 108 ways that you are a super duper special woman may seem daunting, but it's totally possible. And the act of stretching yourself to acknowledge the 108 things will force you to go past the surface into a more intimate relationship with yourself, where you really value you. What do you think? Can you do it? There is a self-love mantra here at the end. I am gifted, I am valuable, I am special, I am me. That's for sure. I am me. I could say that for sure. Can you say that for sure for you? Yes, you are you. Thank you for being here for our year to shine. I love having you here, and we will continue on and do another section as I am able to. I'm taking them, digesting them slower than I had planned. All right? So I will see you on the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.